Good evening and welcome to Christmas at Home with the Jubilate Singers and Friends. I'm your host, Jamie Bradley. Each year in October, 70-plus singers begin rehearsals here in St. Mark's Church in Halifax to prepare for a Festival of Carols, which is held on the second Sunday in December. The concert, produced by the St. Mark's Food Box Committee, features the Jubilate Singers Choir together with several storytellers and performers, all of whom donate their time and talent. The concert raises several thousands of dollars each year, which are used to buy groceries for food boxes for families in need over Greater Halifax at Christmas time. This year, the St. Mark's Food Box Committee will be helping over 100 families. We will accept donations by e-transfer, cheque, and credit card, and we'll be providing that information throughout the program. In 2020, because of the pandemic lockdown, Jubilate could not be held in its normal format. Instead, we produced it online. We were forced to cut our choir down to a quartet. But this year, we have a choir of 49 wonderful voices. Hi, choir! Hi! So here we are for a second Christmas in a mostly empty St. Mark's Church. Large social gatherings still aren't as safe as we would like them to be, but we are so happy that you're here with us tonight. We hope you enjoy the program and we feel moved to support this most worthwhile cause with your donations. To begin, here's the Jubilate Singers with Once in Royal David City.
Once in Royal David City stood a lowly cattle shed, where a mother laid her baby in a manger for his bed. Mary was that mother mild, Jesus Christ, her little child.
Good evening. My name is Daphne Beeler, and I am co-chairperson of St. Mark's Food Box Committee. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to welcome you tonight and thank you for joining us online. Here is a little background about the work you are supporting by donating when you view the concert tonight.
Since 1989, the committee has been producing the Jubilate Singers and Friends Festival of Carols to raise money for food boxes for families in need during the holidays. This year would have been our 33rd live concert, but for the second year now, we are depending on the technology that allows us to bring this virtual concert to you. Each year, in the week following the concert, a team of volunteers goes to work on preparing the grocery boxes for families that have registered with the food bank. Our clients come from all walks of life throughout the Halifax area. Each box contains the basics for a Christmas dinner: a turkey, potatoes and other vegetables, apples, cranberries, and a dessert. The core Christmas dinner is provided by Feed Nova Scotia. We add on to that core dinner and provide groceries to help families get through about 2 weeks. In non-pandemic years, we add items such as peanut butter and jam, tea, macaroni and cheese, pasta and pasta sauce, breakfast cereals, fresh bread, and more. Because of the pandemic, we're currently supplementing with gift cards to reduce the amount of handling of product we do. On the Friday following the concert, we normally have several dozen volunteers who offload the trucks carrying the groceries, organize all the groceries, and then pack the food boxes so they can be delivered the next day. Our volunteers range in age from about 8 years old to over 80 years old, and it is always a joy to work together to do this work. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted all our lives in the past 2 years and stopped us from doing many things. But it hasn't stopped the need in our community, nor has it stopped the incredible generosity of people wanting to help their fellow community members. We were overjoyed last year at the support this concert received, enabling us to exceed our $10,000 goal. This year, our goal is $15,000. We've all noticed the rise in the price of groceries in the past year or so. As a result, we are aiming to increase the amount that we're able to give each family that we help. This year, like last, we will prepare our food boxes with fewer volunteers and do our deliveries with social distancing measures in place to protect our clients and our delivery teams. COVID will not change the enthusiasm and the joy with which our volunteers do this service for our community. We hope that you will be moved to assist us in this work by making a donation. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Lunenburg County, Nova Scotia is a place where people can still hear the Christmas story and the tinkle of ox bells. Families there go back a long way, and when the sea coast and the spruce forests of the South Shore were first given out in land grants, it was a land of labor they found there, hostile to the plow, sour to the sea, uneven to the fence and the furrow. But these were hardy and inventive settlers. They found that cabbage and broad beans were suited to the acid earth. In time, there were farmsteads, secure with fish stores, and cellars filled as winter approached. Their greatest joy was the ox, bred, trained, and prized beyond luxury. These ox teams planted their feet and strained their backs from dawn till sundown. The granite rocks were rolled away. The evergreen hills became fields. The roots of an industrious people went deeper. And always the ox was there, in his yoke, steady, stolid, silent. Any South Shore man who knows oxen will tell you that they are sensitive and responsive to an almost uncanny degree, gathering force and applying their muscles to roots and rocks. On the South Shore, you won't hear anyone belittle an ox. He was there when the land was raw, and old families owe life itself to him. There is a Christmas legend that goes back beyond the first beginnings of Lunenburg County, one you'll still hear told. They say that just at midnight, as Christmas Eve becomes Christmas morning, the silence of the stall is broken. And the beast that shared his barn at Bethlehem kneels and speaks a welcome to the Christ child. It's told in a carol, belonging only to the fish wharves and the farms of Lunenburg County, Nova Scotia. The South Shore Carol.
Hi, friends from St. Mark's. Jennifer and I are here at St. James Anglican Church in Kentville, and they have invited us to play for you tonight in their sanctuary. We wish so much we could be with you. We do a concert at St. James almost every year, and it's called the Longest Night Concert. And Jennifer is going to tell you about the song that she wrote for this.
Yeah, so basically, it stuck in my head, that idea of the longest night of the year, and it's meant to be a concert for people who maybe have a harder time at Christmas. It's not an easy time for everyone, and this combined with the fact that I got a chance to go back to Newfoundland and find some of my family, my relatives, and heard this amazing story about a great aunt of mine who was a lighthouse keeper with her husband, and they were on an island off the coast of St. John's. And She had 3 young children and 1 on the way, and it was on Christmas Eve. There was a gale coming, a big storm, and she went to, her husband went to check on the boats, and he never came back. I think she never really recovered from that, and I kept thinking, what a hard time Christmas must be for her. So that's sort of where this song came from. A sad story, but a story about how a lot of us live through things and nobody even knows. So anyway, this is the song called The Longest Night. Rose over the ocean, the sun it is sinking into the wild sea. Out on the shoreline a woman is watching on the longest night of the year. Closing her eyes she can hear the wind howling, tearing the corners away from the land. The sting of the hail on her face in the doorway on the longest night of the year. And the bells ring out, it is Christmas. The bells they are ringing for peace and for joy. But all that she hears is the cruel wind howling on the longest night of the year. Long time ago, it's so far in her memory, but once every year she must live it again. It sounds like the wail of a cold-blooded banshee on the longest night of the year. And her heart cries out, it is Christmas. Her heart, it is bleeding for peace and for joy. But all that she hears is the cruel wind howling on the longest night of the year. The sun rose over the ocean, the moon it is sinking into the dark sea. The bells they are tolling, another year's passing till the longest night of the year. When the bells ring out, it is Christmas. The bells they are ringing all that she hears is the cruel wind howling on the longest night of the year. Noël chantons ici, dévotés gens criant à Dieu merci, chantant Noël pour le roi nouveau-né. Noël nouveau-né, Noël chantons ici.
Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away.
Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all
Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Noël du Valais, Noël chantons ici. Deux voûtes jaunes, adieu, merci. Gaily we ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Noël du Valais, Noël chantons ici. Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. I heard the angels singing a song that will not cease, how that in Bethlehem one day was born the Prince of Peace. Hosanna in the highest, the voices sing to say, oh come with us to Bethlehem, the promised good will made.
Some shepherds were watching their sheep that wondrous night, when angels started singing there about the Prince of Light.
The Magi came to follow a star up in the sky. It led them on to Bethlehem, God's message from on high. Hosanna in the highest, the voices seem to say, oh, come with us to Bethlehem on this joyful day.
So let us to adore him, this child who came to bring for all the world's salvation. His praises we shall sing. Hosanna in the highest, the voices seem to say, oh, come with us to Bethlehem on this joyful day.
Albert's dad goes to hear Messiah. Now, you heard about young Albert Ramsbottom, what was swallowed by a lion. Well, I'm his dad, Mr. Ramsbottom. I've just come from this here Christmas show in Blackpool. 'Tweren't the usual show at the end of the pier, nor were it like a pantomime at the palace. It was called Messiah by some bloke called Handel. Now, that's not the handle that Albert had in the shape of an horse's head at the end of his stick. 'Twere the fella's name, Handel, the one that wrote it. It were all right, I suppose. Not quite what I was expecting. There was this big stage with instruments of all shapes and sizes. There were people with all shapes and sizes. There were singers, too, of all shapes and sizes. One fella had the biggest fiddle I've ever seen. You should have heard it groan. Then in comes a chap with a small fiddle, and everybody starts making a heck of a racket. And then it all went quiet like. After a minute, in come Messiah. At least I think it were him, because everybody clapped and all the fiddlers stood up to greet him. He were a dapper-looking bloke, all dolled up in a white shirt and a black suit. Aye, I'm sure he must have been Messiah. Then Messiah picked up a white stick and started waving it about. And at this, the band struck up a tune and let loose. First of all, there was a welcome from one of the singers who stood at the front. He invited us all to come for tea. Well, that was all right, I suppose. I'm kind of partial to a cup of myself. Then them singers let rip and started to sing. They wanted to know who the King of Glory were. First one side shouted, he was the King of Glory, and then the other side retaliated with, no, he is the King of Glory. And they all went at it hammer and tongs. But it all fizzled out in the end. Then there were a right to do about some sheep that had gone astray. Some of them singers must have been a bit partial to a bit of mutton, because they kept singing, oh, we like sheep. Me, I like a well-bit done of steak myself. Anyway, one of those sheep must have belonged to one of them four singers what sat up front, because some chap stood up and said, every mountain and hill shall be laid low. Good, I says to myself. If they flatten all the mountains and the hills, they'll be sure to find that sheep what's gone astray, won't they? Well, besides shepherds, there must have been some poultry farmers among those singers, for they kept singing about eggs with yolks that were over easy, and some dame sang about her beautiful feet. Yet another singer, a guy this time, told us about a trumpet that shall sound. Sound? They certainly did, and not only the trumpets. They all made a big ruckus. Some of them women in the choir started to sing. Well, believe you me, a number of them were a bit past it. By the look of them, must have been pushing 80 if they were a day. And they sang, "Unto us a child is born." And the fellas all shouted, "Wonderful!" Wonderful, I thought to myself. Unto us a child is born. Why, at that age, it'd be a blooming miracle. Then some dame stood up and sang about a woman called Joyce Greatley. I'd never heard of her, but apparently she's the daughter of Zion, whoever he might be. But I did know some of those names. That big group of singers let rip with "Lift up your heads, O Bill Gates, and be ye lift up forever, Diana Dawes." I was getting a bit fed up by now. I've been sat there all that time when all of a sudden I get a cramp in my leg, and up I jump. And do you know what? The rest of them jumped up at the same time. They must have all had a cramp in their legs too, same as me. Then the choir shouted, "Hallelujah! It's going to rain forever and ever." Well, I forgot my umbrella, didn't I? So I thought, out of here before the rain starts. So seeing as I was already on my feet, I made a rush for the door. Well, I missed the last bit of the show, but I reckon I had my money's worth. Anyway, it were a right good do. But you know what? I do hope they find that sheep what went astray. Cheerio.
Sing
celebrating Christmas on board ship might have its own set of challenges. The words of Christmas at Sea were written by Jim Bennett, the composer of the South Shore Carol, which you heard earlier in our program. Jim captures the excitement on board, referring to the Christmas pudding in the ship's galley, the festive tree at the masthead, reminding those on board that celebrations may be made here amid the rigging and the salt water. Jim asked Terry if he would set these words to music, and it was done with 8 handbell chimes, sounding out the 8th watch aboard the deck. Enjoy Christmas at Sea with the Jubilate voices, accompanied only by handbells.
Christmas at sea, and joyful are we. There's frost in the ring, the lands at the lee. In the galley of pudding and the masthead of tree, ringing bells for the baby. It's Christmas at sea. Christmas at sea, and joyful are we.
Thank you so much for asking us to be part of the St. Mark's Food Bank benefit again this year. We're really glad to be here playing with Clara and Pam and to have Ken and Sahara back behind the cameras helping us make this happen, but we really miss having an audience. So this next song particularly needs an audience to help sing it. It's a song I wrote for my little junior choir, and we're hoping that you might sing it from wherever you are in the world if we can help you learn it at the beginning here. So it goes like this. Ring Christmas bells on a cold winter's morn. So that's the first line, and now it's your turn to try it. Ring Christmas bells on a cold winter's morn, telling the world your King is born. Telling the world your King is born. Ring Christmas bells on a cold winter's morn, telling the world your King is born. Alleluia, alleluia. Let's hear ya. Ring Christmas bells on a cold winter's morn, telling the world your King is born. Ring Christmas bells on a cold winter's morn, telling Christmas bells on a cold winter's morn, telling the world your King is born. Ring Christmas bells on a cold winter's morn, telling the world your King is born. Ring Christmas bells on a cold winter's morn, telling the world your King is born. Alleluia. Last time. Ring Christmas bells on a cold winter's morn, telling the world your King is born. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
Hi, we hope you're enjoying this evening's concert. My name is Phil Porter, and I've had the privilege of being part of the Jubilate Singers for about 10 years or so now. A few years ago, I wrote a Christmas song for my second CD of gospel music. Our director, Terry Hurrell, heard about it and wrote a choral arrangement just for tonight's performance. It's a song about that first Christmas. It's a song about love. It's a song about hope. It's called Christmas Light, and we hope you like it.
And a star shone bright over Bethlehem that night, o'er a cattle shed and manger full of straw. There a mother softly smiled at her sleeping newborn child.
were wise men the three, bowed in deep humility. With precious gifts they placed amid the straw, just to worship Christ the King, while above the angels sing glad tidings of the greatest gift of all. And the light that God sent down that night from heaven can be found still shining brightly here today. For that peaceful sleeping child in the manger is God's own holy Son who lights our way. So here tonight, why not follow Jesus' light from the manger to the cross of Calvary? For that baby in the hay who was born on Christmas Day gave his life for sinners just like you and me. And the light that God sent down that night from heaven can be found still shining brightly here today. For that peaceful sleeping child in the manger is God's own holy Son who lights our way. For that peaceful sleeping child in the manger is God's own holy Son who lights our way.
My grandma taught me everything about Christmas. When I was just a kid, I remember tearing across town on my bike to visit her on the day my big sister dropped the bomb. There is no Santa Claus, jeered my sister. Even dummies know that. My grandma was not the gushy kind, never had been. I fled to her that day because I knew she would be straight with me. I knew my grandma always told the truth, and I knew that that truth always went down a whole lot easier when swallowed with one of her world-famous cinnamon buns. Grandma was home, and the buns were still warm. Between bites, I told her everything. She was ready for me. No Santa Claus, she snorted. Ridiculous. Don't you believe it. That rumor has been going around for years, and it makes me mad, plain mad. Now, put on your coat and let's go. Go? Go where, Grandma? I asked. I hadn't even finished my second cinnamon bun. Where turned out to be Kirby's General Store, the one store in town that had a little bit of just about everything. As we walked through its doors, Grandma handed me $10. Well, that was a bundle in those days. Take this money, she said, and buy something for someone who needs it. I'll wait for you in the car. Then she turned and walked out of Kirby's. I was only 8 years old. I'd often gone shopping with my mother, but never had I shopped for anything all by myself. The store seemed big and crowded, full of people scrambling to finish their Christmas shopping. For a few moments, I just stood there, confused, clutching that $10 bill, wondering what to buy and who on earth to buy it for. Thought of everyone I knew, my family, my friends, neighbors, the kids at school, the people who went to my church. I was just about thought out when I suddenly thought of Bobby Decker. He was a kid with bad breath and messy hair, and he sat right behind me in Mrs. Pollock's grade 2 class. Bobby Decker didn't have a coat. I knew that because he never went out for recess during the winter. His mother always wrote a note telling the teacher that he had a cough, but all we kids knew that Bobby Decker didn't have a cough, and he didn't have a coat. Fingered the $10 bill with growing excitement. I would buy Bobby Decker a coat. I settled on a red corduroy one that had a hood to it. It looked really warm, and he would like that. I didn't see a price tag, but $10 ought to buy anything. I put the coat and my $10 bill on the counter and pushed them towards the lady behind it. She looked at the coat, the money, and me. "Is this a Christmas present for someone?" she asked kindly. "Yes," I replied shyly. "It's for Bobby. He's in my class, and he doesn't have a coat." The nice lady smiled at me. I didn't get any change, but she put the coat in a bag and wished me Merry Christmas. That evening, Grandma helped me to wrap the coat in Christmas paper and ribbons, and a little tag fell out of the coat, but Grandma just tucked that in her Bible. And then she helped me write, "To Bobby from Santa Claus." Grandma always said that Santa insisted on secrecy. Then she drove me over to Bobby Decker's house, explaining as we went that I was now and forever officially one of Santa's helpers. Grandma parked down the street from Bobby's house, and she and I crept noiselessly and hid in the bushes by his front walk. Suddenly, she gave me a nudge. "All right, Santa Claus," she whispered, "get going." I took a deep breath, dashed for his front door. I threw the present down on his step, pounded his doorbell twice, and flew back to the safety of the bushes and Grandma. Together, we waited breathlessly in the darkness for the front door to open, and finally it did, and there stood Bobby. He looked down, looked around, picked up his present, took it inside, and closed the door. 40-odd years hasn't dimmed the thrill of those moments spent shivering beside my grandma in Bobby Decker's bushes. That night, I realized that those awful rumors about Santa Claus were just what Grandma said they were. Ridiculous. Santa was alive and well, and we were on his team. Oh, and I still have the Bible with the coat tag tucked inside. 1995. May you always have love to share, health to spare, and friends that care. And may you always believe in the magic of Santa Claus.
How are you enjoying the concert so far? Isn't everybody doing a great job? We'll hold for applause. Thank you. Feel free to comment online on your favorite parts. We are so glad you're here with us tonight. Our next piece is From the Eastern Mountains, with words by Godfrey Thring and music by Joseph Haydn, in an arrangement by our own Terry Hurl. Listen for the various voices as they take the lead in the verses and tell the story of the Magi coming to see the newborn king.
Like me, you've probably sung Silent Night hundreds, perhaps even thousands of times over the years. It's one of the first carols we learn as children, and a favorite at every carol sing. But I wonder if you knew that if it weren't for a broken organ, this beautiful carol might not have existed. On December 23rd, 1818, Father Joseph Moore sat at the old organ in St. Nicholas Church in Oberndorf, his fingers stretched over the keys. He took a deep breath and pressed down. Silence echoed through the church. It was no use. The organ had been wheezing and growing quieter for months, and now, the day before Christmas Eve, it had finally given out. St. Nicholas Church would have no music for Christmas. Father Joseph pulled on his overcoat and stepped out into the night. He walked through the snowy streets and climbed the path leading up into the mountains. From high above Oberndorf, Father Joseph looked out over the Austrian Alps. Stars shone above in the still and silent night. Silent night? Father Joseph was reminded of a poem he had written a few years earlier. He'd given it that very title, Silent Night. The next morning, Father Joseph set out to see his friend Franz Gruber, the organist for St. Nicholas, who lived in the next village. Herr Gruber was surprised to see the priest so far from home on Christmas Eve, and even more surprised when Father Joseph handed him the poem. That night, Father Joseph and Franz Gruber stood at the altar of St. Nicholas Church. Father Joseph picked out a few notes on the guitar, and he and Franz Gruber began to sing. Their two voices rang out over the congregation, the melody perfectly matching the simplicity and honesty of the words. Today, Silent Night is sung by people around the world, from children in their first Sunday school play to choirs in the grandest cathedrals. And here, at St. Mark's, each year, the Jubilate Singers end their concert by encircling the audience with candlelight and singing those words that so beautifully express the miracle of Christmas.
on behalf of everyone involved, thank you for sharing Christmas at home with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the program. Tonight, we've had viewers join us from near and far. Halifax. Hello, Halifax. Bedford, Prospect, all in Nova Scotia. Ottawa, Ontario. Hello, Ottawa. Edmonton, Alberta. The mountains. New Hampshire. Welcome, New Hampshire. And Orlando, Florida. Say hi to Mickey for me. Thank you all for joining us from wherever you are. Silent Night may have brought the Jubilate Singers and Friends concert to a close, but now the work of providing groceries to those in need begins. Please take note of all the ways you can donate to this worthy cause. And tonight, during this broadcast, is not the only time you can donate. Every donation, large or small, goes towards buying food. This year, our target is to raise $15,000, so to increase the amount we're giving each family to compensate for the increase in grocery costs. Over 100 families will thank you for your generosity. Christmas at Home with the Jubilate Singers and Friends will remain posted on Facebook and YouTube, so you can re-watch over the holidays. And please, feel free to share this concert with loved ones anywhere in the world. Again, thank you for watching. We hope you have a safe and happy holiday season, and we wish you all the best in 2022.